Part of the decision for what to make for a new unit for the Mammoth Beat Organ was having to think about what would augment the kind of sounds that we already make. We use the organ pipes quite a lot, we use the drum sequencer quite a lot, and we have various other instruments that we use, like a turntable and a tombola. There's a intonamori sort of hurdy-gurdy instrument. But we don't really have anything that plays bass, apart from a couple of bass organ pipes. And we don't really use any plucked strings in the setup. So I thought it would be nice to make something that does both of those things, and decided to make a kind of automated bass banjo. Normally we'd go through quite extensive prototyping of a new module for the Mammoth Beat Organ, but because of the situation this time, working in my studio in London rather than with Sam at his studio, I basically had to design the whole thing first, get some parts made, and then put it together. It's quite a different way of working to what I'm used to. So that meant that I had to put it together on paper first, make lots of diagrams, lots of drawings, iterations of different ideas, thinking them through drawing and seeing what would come out. I kind of struggle with 3D, thinking in 3D, so it helps me to draw things on paper, but really I need to see it in the physical space for it to make sense to me. So I also made a kind of full-sized maquette version out of cardboard to see how all the parts fit together. Once I was happy with the idea in diagram format, I kind of made scale drawings ready to convert to vectors in order to get things laser cut or CNC milled, to get my own kind of flat pack Mammoth Beat Organ module. Once I'd got all the parts delivered, of course sometimes there are problems with these kind of things, so some of the pieces were much too big for my specifications, so they've been cut to inches rather than centimetres. A couple of the other parts I'd mismeasured, so I had to cut some extra holes for the bearings and things, which was kind of stressful because I can't really do anything with precision here. The way that I designed the system, it's kind of modular in itself, so each of the sections I could put together separately. So I put together, for example, all the cogs for the plectrum plucking section. I could test that worked first. I could do a basic test of whether it would actually work to kind of pluck things in rhythm, and that seemed to be working okay. But really it was a case of building the entire thing before I could check whether it was going to work as an actual banjo. All of the modules on the Mammoth Beat Organ need to have some kind of on or off switch, so in this case it connects to the wheel, the cog which is inside the wheel unit, which is always rotating, and it has this lever which enables you to put a cog against that cog and drive the internal drive shaft of the unit. From there I needed to get horizontal motion from the axle into vertical, so it uses these two cogs with bigger teeth in order to do that, and that means there's a vertical axle which is turning, and I can engage or disengage both the plectrum section and the fretboard section in order to play or not play. So the way that the plectrum section works is it has 4 rotating hubs, and onto each one you can put different pluckers and different dampeners. This is something I want to explore more with further different options. At the moment I have these circles which are divided into 16 sections, so it gives you a fairly standard rhythm, but of course those could be divided up any way that you like, and in future I'm sure we will make some different plectrum rhythms and things. Then I've also started to make a few felt discs and a rubber disc which can damp the strings in different ways as well. The idea is that when a sequence is playing you can introduce or stop different sounds either by muting the strings with your hand or by adding or removing different plectrum pluckers. Then a bit further up the strings, the kind of top half of each string, on each string there's one of these rotating fretboards. So without any frets attached, they will just freely rotate not get in the way at all. But each one has 4 faces onto which you can put a plectrum. Each face is magnetic, so you can slide the plectrum into any position that you want to. So that means you could potentially set them all on the same location, in which case you are playing a different note than the open string, or you can sequence them so that as it rotates, that set of notes will change. The idea is that you can set a different sequence on the fretboard to what's happening with the plucking mechanism, and indeed you can start and stop them at different times, so you can change the patterns of one against another. The exciting part about one of these kind of builds is when you get to the stage where we're at now, where it's up and running and it's fully working, all the parts are tested, and it's a case of playing it and experimenting with playing it and seeing what it can actually do, what kind of sounds you can get it to make.